All right, what's good? What's good, y'all? Was in the middle of listening to the Malik Scott interview with Barbershop Conversations. Shout out Barbershop Conversations, man. I don't see eye to eye with everything, especially a lot of the wilder stuff, man. But the brother do work hard, so I gotta respect that, man. But I just wanted to, you know, comment on that interview. Great interview, by the way. I ain't gonna cap. Whether you a fan of Wilder or not, great insight just on the whole training camp and what's going on. I'm gonna try to play a little bit of it real quick. Been a super long interview, so I'm gonna see. Um, they might be still on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, yeah, they still on. I'm gonna play a little bit of the interview real quick.
Still a lot of chat about him. Down to hit but yeah, ain't nobody else. Same shit. That's what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying earlier. That's why I'm uncomfortable. All you want to that's uncomfortable to speak about. Friends speak about all the time, and he don't care if the powers that so-called be block him out. Not if this actually happens. How is that be don't want Fred Barbershop at certain press conferences? Don't let Fred Barbershop into fights. Don't let Fred Barbershop come to the media. Why? Like, why is it?
You're too real for him, bro. You're too real for him. They still want that water. They want that water down. You're too real for him.
All right, so hopefully you just heard. That was Malik Scott, man. Um, I think they're kind of wrapping up. I'm gonna see if let me see if I can go back.
Understand it. There was no drilling going on.
All right, so yeah, I went back in the interview. I'm gonna play a little bit, then I'm gonna get some commentary.
There was no systematic breakdown on how to get a guy out of there and stuff like that. Shout out to JD's. Him and JD's an extraordinary strategizer. You get what I'm trying to say? Him and Deontay always came up with great plans to get guys out of here and stuff like that. But as far as drilling, as far as eating stupid shit in boxing, when you leave the boxing gym, it's still boxing. Someone that he can relate to on so many levels. That's what he had with me, and that's why I was saying I'm not teaching Deontay Wilder nothing. I'm just bringing everything that I know that's in him out of him. I'm bringing all of that out.
Okay, so just the good I can say, man. We will see an improved Deontay Wilder. I still got Fury to win the fight just based from a skill set thing, but from listening to Malik Scott and shout out Malik Scott, man. Like, don't get me wrong, the boy did flop. He did flop versus Wilder, but overall, I always rock with Malik Scott. I just say I rock with him out the ring. Can't sit here and lie and say I was the biggest Malik Scott fan. I did like his skill set for as he was the boxing type. So any fighter that's more of a boxer type, I do kind of lean more towards over there. But regardless of that, I got to know a little bit more about Malik Scott, man. Anybody who's just an individual and not just for the sake of being different, but just being themselves, you gotta rock with them. And I definitely see that in Malik Scott. So salute to the brother, and the brother seemed very knowledgeable. But back to the video. Yeah, that's one thing I will say that we do joke and stuff about the Wilder stuff, but I think Scott Scott is definitely a good help for Wilder. I think maybe Scott not he might not be the best trainer for any other fighters, but I think for Wilder, I think he do fit the job well. So I'm gonna play some more of this.
We're not leaving no stone unturned. All T's are being crossed, all I's are dotted. Anything that can be done in the ring that's good for him to do with his athletic build and with his power and his strength, we're going to drill it. We're going to drill it. There's no more. You get this good move and then we don't see it again because the move never was drilled. So it ain't really a part of your arsenal. You just did that time because it was a subconscious thing to do. Now, to a casual, guess how that looked, Fred? That looked like, man, you seen what he did? Man, he did that. And I'm always in the back of my head like, if he did that from a subconscious standpoint, imagine what this dude would do if he drilled this shit. It's scary. You know what I mean? It's scary because if you see somebody do something like with a young George Foreman, I noticed this a lot, and I compare his mentality with Deontay's a lot. Young George Foreman was such an instinctive brute fighter. He was very instinctive, and I used to always say like him and Deontay have a lot of things in common when it comes to subconscious attacks. Imagine if that's what I used to say to myself. Imagine if he just took that subconscious out and drilled that, and then it would be a part of his arsenal. Like, you get what I'm trying to say? It just would be a part of his art. He's doing everything now, man. He's changing levels. He's going to the body, his head movement, 6-inch jabs, up jabs, head movement, body attacks, disengagements, engagements. Like, we really stepping it up. Like, we really just stepped it up. Like, you know, and Fury is going to have a lot to deal with, just not one thing. That's why I'm
Okay, so I'm gonna interject again. Now, you know, I like Scott's passion, and that's one thing I can tell is that he brought a level of seriousness. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that they wasn't serious before, but just with him being a former boxer and him knowing really what it takes, you know, I can definitely tell that he brought a more passionate feel about the sport. You know, but the only thing that you know, I wouldn't say worried me, but just a negative is that I think this might be almost like an overload for Wilder. You know, yes, he has had time to drill it in, and yes, he has had time to transform working with Scott, but could we be kind of asking too much of Wilder, man? You know, especially with just the information we knew for as him not liking to do certain things, him not liking to train certain way. So I understand that Scott saying he kind of wants to do everything now, but do we think that in a fight, because we know they always say you gotta plan till you get hit. Do we think in a fight can Wilder stay disciplined for 12 rounds and implement not only remember the things that him and Scott worked on, but can he implement them things in a top level fight versus Fury? So that's to be seen, but that's one of my red flags. I hear everything that Scott said and working on, but my whole thing is when the lights are on, will Wilder be disciplined enough to not only remember the drills and everything, but to use them? So I'm gonna continue and let this play.
hoping that he believes this one trick pony thing. That works in our favor to truly believe it, because if he's adamant about doing the things that he's saying he's going to do, it's going to be a very, very short night for him. He's going to find out very, very early, once again, that he's in there with the hardest puncher in the history of the sport. If he's adamant about what he's saying, he's going to pay for it it's going to be an early night. Right? If Fury is adamant about what he's saying, I'm saying this on a barbershop show. If he's adamant about doing what he's saying he's going to do, his prediction, he's going to sleep very early. If he think he's going to walk to Deontay Wilder like he did the second fight when he make no fucking adjustments, he is crazy. What do you think we've been doing since that? We've been marinating him. That's what we've been doing, bro. We're seasoning him. The cooking is coming up. The cooking is coming up. You know what I mean? So that's just what it is. All cooking is coming up, brother. His time is up. We got a few more days, and that long tongue rider is out of there, brother. He's gone.
Yeah, we're finally here. I've heard Deontay Wilder said he should have made changes a long time ago, and he said he used to come and go upon y'all agreement in and out of the camp. Mm-hmm. Was it challenging for you to bite your tongue as you saw him training, or you just said, well, this is good enough, you didn't want to step on?
The reason for me, friend, it was hard during those times, because even during those times, Deontay would tell you, I would talk to him about opponents and stuff about opponents. We come up with game plans. Of course, JD's. But what was hard is because during during a time in his career, he had Russ Amber and Mark Breland and JD's and Cusdale. So during that time, I respect all those guys the utmost, especially Mark Breland, because Mark paved the way, regardless of everything that's going on there. Mark paved the way for not just people like myself, a lot of young guys in boxing. And the last thing I would ever want to do is step a legend to.
And shout out Malik too, man. He kept it respectable with Mark. He could have got messy, and a lot of people was probably looking for him to disrespect Mark. But from what I seen, he kept it respectable with Mark. So shout out Malik for that, man.
You get what I'm trying to say when it comes to this boxing thing. So what I would do is just like I'm gonna say this, but I believe it just was all ordained. It was all ordained. Whatever's meant to be, especially something as imperative as this job, it's going to be. That's what I'm saying. The best thing that happened to us was that loss. It was the best thing, and I knew this. I knew this a week after the fight. I was public with it, and I would tell Deontay this publicly and on social media. I was like, bro, I'm happy that it happened. And that sounds very demonic or something. Like, what you mean happy that it happened? Because if that's what it took to get the Wilder that I got now, I'll have that shit happen 10 times.
And see, I think that's the key thing that everybody, missing. People so focused on the fight and all that, but I think the real win out of this situation is the fact that Wilder is taking this craft serious. Whether you are, what I'm saying, a boxer fan or not, a Wilder fan or not, I think the main thing we can take out of this is that the loss to Fury got him back working on his craft, man. And at the end of the day, that's good for everybody, So
I'll walk through that fire 10 times because I know this Deontay, no one can beat.
I still got Fury winning though, but
no one can beat. Look, listen to what I'm saying. I've been telling him, everybody in the camp and everything, this whole camp, this could be the easiest fight of his career. It's just all up to Deontay.
And shout out Malik Scott, man. He is, he repping his fighter, but that you could tell that man making sure that paycheck don't go nowhere, man. Because he said some wild stuff, man. He said you just heard him say this is gonna be the easiest fight for him. Also, I know he said something about if Wilder beat Fury, he should be pound for pound. So one thing I can say is that Malik Scott know where his bread is butter, man.
Fury is just he has no say so. It sounds so like crazy because Fury is a damn good fighter. This sounds.
All right, now hold on, hey, he about to get crazy right here, man. Like I said, shout out Malik Scott, man. But dog, hold on.
It's very obtuse, you could say, but he has no say so when Deontay is on like this. He's just in the ring.
I get that.
Like he's like a pawn. This is Chuck. He's out the way. It's up to Deontay on how he want to treat him or how he.
And see, that's where I think they lose the fight, man. That's where I think they lose the fight. It's the fact that during this interview he kept saying that if Deontay was in his zone or if he stay in his zone, and it just kind of feel like, man, and I'm gonna play a little more in the interview, but because it's a super long interview, so I ain't gonna draw it out. But that's the only thing that it just feel like because they had Wilder training on their strength and conditioning coach. Shout out, I think his name was Joey Scott, but good guys, man. You can tell they working hard. It just feel like I just hear too much like high school locker room, that rah that get hype. I just throughout this whole interview, it just sounded like they still trying to make Wilder believe that he's good as he is, and I'm not saying he's not good, but I can just tell that they're still going through, it's not a confident from to me, it's not a visual confidence. They're still working on his mental. I think they're still working on Wilder mental because I just heard a lot of. It just feel like they haven't even watched the first two fights. A lot of times in this interview, they just would talk as if the first two fights didn't happen, or they would go back to the knockdown, and it's just like we have to talk about the rounds in between that knockdown, the rounds in between, the knockdown and the end of the second fight, or the rounds in between the two knockdowns in the first fight. So it feels like a lot of times Wilder fans they think the fight was just Wilder's two knockdowns and that was it. Like it's more. It was they boxed what 24 rounds. So I just didn't like the fact that they just kept harping on that knockdown, um, and kind of leaning on that, man. Let me see if I can find this other part though.
He gave the world.
And then I ain't even about to get into all that, man. Hold on, let me try to find it.
It's fuck humane. It's not fuck the facts. Because the facts is Deontay Wilder's in the best shape and has never looked this good in his life from a mental, surgical, systematic standpoint in boxing. That's just the facts. Then they run with everyone look good on that. Not the kind of pad work we do. You niggas are out there doing choreographical pad work.
So I want to say something. Hold on real quick.
Hey, hey, Team Wilder was in their bag, man. They hear the haters. They tired of the haters, man. He was letting the haters know.
Hold on, Malik. What I want to say is this, right? They can't stand.
Because if y'all come in that's a bad deal. That's a bad deal. That's a bad deal. It's not like, because you got to realize, Deontay don't have no on and off switch. It's not like, well, once he like, my brother, I can't go.
I'm maintaining that. You understand?
All right, so I couldn't find it, man. But I was trying to find the part where Malik Scott said he think Wilder need to be on the pound for pound list. But yeah, man. All in all, a good interview, man. But we're gonna see what's gonna happen, man. The third fight will be upon us. Like I said, man, I got the money on Fury, man. Shout out Wilder, but skills pay the bills, man. And to me, like I said, the one takeaway from this interview, great interview, and I can tell that we will get a better Wilder. I'm not doubting that no more. But I just don't think it'll be enough to beat Fury, man. I think it's just you got one guy who's been doing this since birth, and then you have one guy who's trying to, pick it up. And I think that gap is just too large of a gap to make up in one fight, man. So yeah, this your boy, man. Self-Made Life Ken. Go follow the IG, Self-Made Life TV, man. Merch dropping soon, and I'm out, man.